Everyone, so today we are going to be reacting to a video by Sheikh AbdulRahman Hassan. It's called Partisanship to a Scholar or a Teacher. Although it was uploaded back in 2018, I think it's still relevant today. So let's watch it.
أتأول الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. My beloved brothers and sisters who are listening to me, inshallah ta'ala, I want to share this important message with each and every one of you. It's about the concept of التحزب المذموم, to have fanaticism for a particular individual, to the extent that if this individual says to you that this is where you could go, you go. And if they say to you, you can't go here, you don't go. And this haqiqatan, it goes against the methodology and the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. ولذلك الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله mentions in his مجموع الفتاوى, he says وليس للمعلمين أن يحزبوا الناس.
So I'm pretty sure, by the way, Sheikh Abdurrahman Hafidhullah would say this himself. This doesn't apply to every single scenario. This is not an absolute rule. Obviously, sometimes if your teacher says, you know, for example, don't go to this particular masjid because they are extremely liberal, they're teaching some really weird things, they're modifying Islam, or on the other spectrum, there's a group of Muslims, or and they're basically calling to takfir or extreme takfir, or you know, the methodology of the Khawarij or something like that, then obviously that would be an exception and whatnot. And just to caution everyone, I'm not a student of knowledge, I'm not a scholar, but I imagine Sheikh Abdurrahman Hassan Hafidhullah would obviously qualify that. I think later in the video he does qualify that.
It is not befitting, it is not permissible, it is not allowed for the teachers and yuhazzibu nasa, that they divide the people and they break them into groups. وَيَفْعَلُ مَا يُلْقِي بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ, and they place in the hearts of the people hate and enmity. So the teacher will say to his student, for instance, don't go to that particular teacher. And the reason why he would say that is because he has a personal issue with that teacher. He doesn't personally like that teacher.
Reminds me of a dua from the Quran. رَبَّنَا, may Allah forgive me if there's mistakes in this, but I think it's, anyways, I'll say the ayah. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. غِل, right? This word غِل is very important. غِل آمَنُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Let's continue.
So he forces his students and those who take knowledge from him not to go to that particular person because of the grudge and because of the personal inclination that he has. He bans his students from going to benefit from that person. And this Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he says, it is not correct. وَلَيْسَ لِلْمُعَلِّمِينَ أَن يُحَزِّبُوا النَّاسَ. It is not right for the teacher to do this. And nor should he go that direction. And then Ibn Taymiyyah went on carrying on to say, بَلْ يَكُونُونَ مِثْلَ الْإِخْوَةِ الْمُتَعَاوِنِينَ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى كما قال تعالى وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان إن الله شديد العقاب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, aid one another in good and righteousness and piety. Don't aid one another in al-ithm wal-udwan. Don't aid one another in that which is sinful and that which goes against obedience and righteousness. Dividing the students and dividing the people is at-ta'awanu ala al-ithm wal-udwan. And then Allah says, wattaqullaha, be conscious of Allah and fear Him, O teachers. Inna Allah shadid.
So if I'm not mistaken, the ayah that he's quoting is from Surah Al-Ma'idah. Let me just verify that. Actually, I'm not. I'll have to double check that, inshallah. Surah Al-Ma'idah, if I'm not mistaken. The ayah that I quoted, though, is from Surah 59, ayah number 10. So this is why it's so important, Ikhwani, to know the Quran, inshallah ta'ala, especially for myself. Let's continue, inshallah.
العقاب. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala's punishment are very severe. I want to mention a story here, inshallah ta'ala. This story is regarding a great scholar that lived in...
So I might not get into the actual story. I think it's better if I link to the video in the description. But essentially, he quotes a story about Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, where, you know, he had the option to basically tell his students not to go to this particular sheikh. And even though Sheikh Al-Albani himself disagreed with the sheikh, even though, according to the video, he may have even boycotted this sheikh, but he didn't tell his students to do that. So it's very interesting, right? Very interesting for our time. I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about in this big city, you know, metropolitan cities nowadays. Now, if you think I'm talking about one particular organization or masjid, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I think that this particular issue, I think that we're all prone to it. We're all prone to these kinds of, we could say, biases. Just like I would say, subhanAllah, I mean, think about this, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they feared nifaq, right? They feared nifaq. They feared these diseases of the heart. But we, on the other hand, we walk around and act like, and I'm guilty of this myself, that, you know, we're safe, that, a'udhu billah, we've already made it to Jannah, that, you know, once we study something, you know, we've proven ourselves. And you know, it's a completely different attitude and paradigm shift. So we need to have a paradigm shift. We need to be more thankful and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're Muslims. We need to relook at ourselves and say, you know what, how can I improve? Maybe I do have jealousy sometimes. Maybe I do have anger. Maybe I do have resentment. And one of the best ways, you know, when you meet a Muslim brother, and this happens all the time, especially in the Muslim community, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, from the Indo-Pak community, so we can be sometimes argumentative. Those of you who know other ethnicities and whatnot, we all have the same thing a little bit, right? What you do in that scenario when you find yourself having, you know, you feeling like arguing with somebody, just take a step back, smile at the brother, give him husnul dhan. Husnul dhan goes a long way. I mean, first of all, have husnul dhan billah, and husnul dhan for your Muslim brothers. I mean, if now is not the time that we need it, we need it. You know, we always talk about unity. Well, I think it starts with you and I sometimes, that we need to practice this practical unity. Have husnul dhan, and one of the easiest things you can do is forgive. You know, forgive. So if a brother is getting annoying, asking too many questions, just wants to debate with you, forgive, and subhanallah, imagine the reward that you'll get for doing that. Number 2, make dua for that brother. Make dua for that brother. So if you have this in your heart, you know, the ayah I quoted, Surah 59, ayah number 10, رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانَنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Sorry if I made a mistake here. Let me play this here. غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. So, and the ayah that the Sheikh quoted, Sheikh AbdulRahman Hassan, it's very important to reflect on. And there's so many ayat in the Quran about collaboration, unity. And if you think that I'm talking about a kumbaya world, no. I think that, you know, it's important to have checks and balances in the community. Sometimes refutations are actually a good thing. I think they should always be done, especially when we're talking about people that we can pray behind. They should always be done with a certain level of manners and etiquette. But at the same time, sometimes we actually do need to call certain things out, right? You know, whether it's, for example, Islamic organizations and mashayikh, engaging in ikhtilat, okay? Engaging in things that are maybe contrary to the Quran and Sunnah, right? So certain scenarios, I don't want to get into it here. It's not the appropriate time, and I'm not the best person to do that, but I think there is times when you can have these call-outs and whatnot. Probably I'm going to go towards the end of the video now, inshallah, but I do recommend everyone to watch it, inshallah.
And they would benefit from him, and they would converse with him, and they say that he was the muassis, the one who established Jam'iyyat al-Da'wat al-Salafiyya. So Sheikh Al-Albani, what he did was, when he realized that Sheikh Muhammad Nasib al-Rifa'i does not want to take the truth, and he does not want to follow the truth, Sheikh Al-Albani boycotted him. But the moral of the story is this. This is the moral of the story. And that is, Sheikh Muhammad Nasib al-Rifa'i, When Albani boycotted him, he didn't tell his students to do that. And he did not force his students to follow him in this view. Rather, his students, they would go to Sheikh Muhammad Nasib al-Rifa'i and they would take knowledge from him. And they would benefit from him. And they would converse with him. And they would even have dialogues regarding their affairs. Sheikh Nasir rahimahullah, Sheikh Muhammad Nasir al-Din al-Albani never forced his students to follow him in his view. And this teaches us something, that the scholars were never ones to do tahzibun nas, to divide the people, and to teach the students to be fanatic towards them, and to have fanaticism towards them. They were far from that. They believed that the people, if they're going to stick to something, and if they're going to hold on to something, it has to be the kitab and the sunnah, and also bima alayhi salafus salih, that which the pious predecessors were upon. So let that be, inshallah ta'ala, something that we implement in our lives, as teachers especially. And also, if you have a group of people who listen to you, don't be a person who does tahzibun nas, divides the people because of your personal issues with a particular person. Anything which I have said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are free from it. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Yeah, so just to finish up a few comments here, inshallah, bismillah, may Allah accept that from Shaykh AbdulRahman. SubhanAllah, it's so interesting how people cling on to personalities and whatnot. And on the other hand, we have a bulk of Muslims who completely disrespect and neglect the scholars or don't know the importance of that. So here's an analogy I thought of the other day. Imagine you walk into a house, and in that house, there's division in that house. Or you walk into the house and it appears that there's some kind of unity. But then when you go into each individual rooms, right? You go into each of the individual rooms in this house, there's fights in that rooms. You go into the next room, there's another fight happening. You go to the basement, there's another fight happening. You go into another room, there's another fight happening. Are you going to feel safe and secure in those rooms? Or are you going to feel like walking away from the house? Or, walking away from those rooms and maybe walking away from that house altogether? So this is the thing, is that we have to be careful. I think the Talab al-Ilm and Mashayikh in particular, and I'm really not talking about one group. If you think I am, I believe this happens in every jama'ah, every masjid, that we have this. So on one hand, we first of all, it's not appropriate for people like my level to speak on too much on the differences, because I'm just not qualified. But what I'm talking about is from a layperson's perspective. How does it look from a layperson's perspective if everybody's warning against each other and almost like looking at this from practicing hatred against one another? So the key here is, look, as a general rule, maybe, and I think one of our teachers here, he mentioned this topic from Usul al-Sunnah, and Imam Ahmad's Usul al-Sunnah. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it incorrectly. But for the average lay person like myself, it's not even permissible to even have these debates. It's not even permissible to get involved in these debates between Sunni Muslims. And when I say Sunni Muslims here, I'm talking about those who you can pray behind. Okay. Number two, I'm gonna also share a nice video by our brother Ustadh Farid Responds, or Farid al-Bahraini, where he talks about some of the ikhtilaf itself when it comes to dealing with those who are classified as innovators or innovation, right? And again, anyways, like I said, I'm not qualified to talk about this topic too much, but I thought that video was interesting because, and I'll also share just another video. I mean, there's so many videos I could share. There's also one by Sheikh Abu Usamah, where he talks about how different Islamic movements or different Muslims have different strengths. And, he shares this one story where someone was going to educate the Muslim community on sex education, and maybe they weren't from his particular jama'ah or manhaj or methodology, but he said it was so important for the Muslim community to benefit from that person, because if you just throw everybody off and throw everybody under the bus, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to be a healthy community. And the scholars would know better, but subhanAllah, what do these ayat and hadith talk about when it talks about cooperation, right? In certain instances. So So again, I don't want to go above and beyond my level here, but with especially with the younger brothers, I guess I would say this is that, don't occupy yourself too much with this kind of stuff. I mean, okay, no problem. Know where you stand. Know the group of scholars that you want to take knowledge from. I think that's not. I think that's something that you need to have a foundation in. Like, you need to take your knowledge from somewhere at the end of the day. Um, and secondly, just don't get involved too much into the debates. Just focus on building your foundations first and foremost, and then move forward, inshallah ta'ala. Or when you have these kinds of questions, take them to the appropriate people. So in the same way that we don't want to air our dirty laundry out, especially with the Muslim masses and the youth. Likewise, we need to, I think, act wise and behave wisely when it comes to our behavior, inshallah, in the Muslim community. Barakallahu feekum akhwani. Jazakallah khair. And do please check out the video and the links in the description. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.